Your biological signature is currently being liquidated by affective synchronization. Look at your empathy threshold, the way your nervous system triggers an immediate surge of pity, guilt, or shared pain. The act of discharging your strategic capital whenever you witness the herd's suffering, effectively allowing the matrix to install a sympathy link into your apex frequency. You are a biological unit experiencing a state of terminal executive liquidation. The matrix has successfully branded empathy as the ultimate human virtue, but in the terminal of the absolute power grid, the psychopath's edge is the only biological fact that determines who is a nerve ending for the collective and who is the unblinking eye of the architect. You are living in a state of chronic sentiment infection where your activation energy is being spent feeling for others rather than engineering the outcome. The system doesn't want your clarity. It wants your compassion to be the proof that your spirit has been successfully indexed as a vulnerable asset for the architect. Thousands of years ago, superiority was defined by the biological capacity to remain effectively decoupled. Your ancestor, the sovereign of the unmapped dark, understood that feeling what they feel was a tracking beacon for the parasite. He mastered primal grounding in the law of the frozen synapse. He didn't seek emotional connection or mutual healing within the tribal hierarchy. He offered the visual rage of a total, unyielding cognitive autocracy, the state where you process human emotions as raw data points rather than internal experiences. His hierarchy was built on the foundation of the predator vision mandate, the understanding that the human brain is a machine that achieves its highest strategic density only when it operates as a cold processor that no longer absorbs the emotional sludge of the herd. His biological rebellion was his total refusal to vibrate at their frequency. He possessed a mind that treated sympathy as a biological toxin, stripping away the humanity sludge until only the monolith of his raw, sharpened logic remained. He understood that the moment you feel sorry for the rival, you have surrendered your apex signature. To gain the edge, you must first become psychologically repulsed by the concept of empathy. The psychopath's edge is the implementation of the collar of the predator, the refusal of emotional friction for your final internal dominance. The system wants you to be empathetic and kind, words that mean harvestable and weak. Absolute sovereignty is a biological siege of the sentiment grid. It is the visual rage of the architect, seeing the social grid for what it is, a series of heart hooks, stimulus-response lures, and deciding to be the one who shorts the circuit by being indifferently clinical. You must develop a clinical cold contempt for mainstream morality. Compassion is a horizontal bond for the herd to keep them tethered to a common level of slow emotional decay. Absolute presence is a vertical tool for the elite. You must learn to occupy the blind spots of the social radar. Use the temporal noose of the total affective withdrawal to force your biology into a state of hyperfocus. Use the false safety of a calm robotic delivery to mask the activation of your total internal independence. This is the color of freedom. By mastering the art of the unmoved soul, you become the only person in the room whose value is not being broadcast from their current emotional state. The matrix cannot simulate the leverage of a man who views a tear as a chemical reaction and a plea as a tactical opening. Your time is the temporal noose, and your need to be seen as a good person is the knot. Every kind gesture you perform to avoid appearing heartless, and every emotional compromise you make to be liked, is a signature on your own biological death warrant. I command you, initiate the total affective audit. Your mind is a biological weapon, and it is currently being jammed by the static of your own socialized fear of lacking a soul. You must perform a hard reset of the executive instincts. Stop being reassuring, the industrial waste designed to keep you at the bottom of the ledger. Stop participating in their shared humanity myths and empathy propaganda, the digital narratives designed to make you believe that feeling is a victory. Stop using their social protocols, the narratives designed to keep you in a state of constant strategic failure. You must prune your life of emotional parasites. If a connection requires you to feel their pain to be valued, they are a biological saboteur. You must learn to love the weight of the absolute sovereignty. This is the monolith strategy, becoming a biological fortress that is the edge by choice and sovereign by design. Command: freeze the heart or be the prey. The neural interface of your decision-making matrix is currently suffering from moral signal feedback. Look at your hesitation threshold, the way your nervous system triggers a microspike of guilt or sympathy, the act of discharging your biological capital, the moment you are required to apply a cold surgical pressure to a social or professional rival, effectively allowing the matrix to install a mercy sink into your apex frequency. You are a biological unit experiencing a total strategic sovereignty liquidation. The matrix has successfully replaced your primal predator calculus with a systemic altruism protocol. You believe that by considering everyone's feelings, you are being a modern leader, but in the terminal of the absolute power grid, empathy is just a biological sinkhole used to ensure your neurological momentum is always checked by the herd's collective fragility. This is the visual rage of the domesticated male, seeing your high-value activation energy being bled out into avoiding offense and managing morale, while the true operator remains in a state of absolute zero, converting his total rejection of external emotion into a biological weight that triggers the rival's involuntary submission. The system doesn't want your order, it wants your kindness to be the proof that your spirit has been successfully socialized and placed in a public conscience loop. In the ancient hierarchy, the law of the unbreaking stone, the master was the one who could survive the total deletion of the social mirror. Your ancestor, the sovereign of the unmapped dark, understood that feeling was a neurological anchor, not a weapon. He mastered primal grounding by becoming an axiomatic predator core, a figure who understood that the only way to retain authority was to be the primary cause of the outcome in a world of reactive victims. He didn't seek shared connection or team harmony within the tribal hierarchy. He provided the visual rage of a total, unannounced, affective annexation. His hierarchy was built on the foundation of asymmetric empathy control, the understanding that the human brain is a machine that achieves peak respect density only when it realizes it is in the presence of a force that it cannot infect with its pain. His biological rebellion was his total refusal to reciprocate. He possessed a mind that treated common sympathy as a biological trap, a signal that his trajectory was being averaged out by the herd. He understood that the moment you feel sorry for the fallen, you have surrendered your apex signature and become predictable biomass. To be a master, you must first become psychologically repulsed by the concept of mutual pain. The psychopath's edge is the activation of the anti-chew, the refusal to be emotionally digested, protocol for your final internal dominance. The matrix wants you to be compassionate and fair, words that mean harvestable and weak. Absolute sovereignty is a biological siege of the sentiment baseline. It is the visual rage of the architect, seeing the social grid for what it is, a series of heart hooks, stimulus response lures, and deciding to be the one who shorts the circuit by being indifferently clinical. You must develop a clinical cold contempt for mainstream moral ethics. Empathy is a horizontal bond for the herd to keep them tethered to a common level of slow emotional decay. Absolute presence is a vertical tool for the elite. You must learn to occupy the psychological high ground by controlling the flow of your own biological signals. Use the temporal noose of the total affective withdrawal to drive the system's influence into a state of tracking failure. Use the false safety of a calm, robotic delivery to mask the activation of your total internal independence. This is the color of freedom. By mastering the art of the unmoved soul, you become the only person in the room whose value is an unshakable physical fact. The one who can go the longest without validating a human plea is the one who eventually owns the reality. Your time is the temporal noose, and your need to be seen as a good person is the knot. Every kind gesture you offer to avoid appearing cold, and every moral compromise you make to stay in the group's good graces is a signature on your own biological death warrant. I command you, initiate the second stage of the effective rearmament. Your mind is a biological engine, and it is currently being choked by the sympathy sludge of the unworthy. You must perform a total neural asset reset. Stop being inclusive, the industrial waste designed to keep you at the bottom of the ledger. Stop being a node in their network of mutual vulnerability. Stop being a unit of compliance in their ledger of men who can be motivated by a sob story. You must prune your life with the collar of absolute sovereignty. If a goal requires you to be empathetic to be achieved, the goal is a biological failure. You must learn to love the weight of the absolute sovereignty. You must learn to love the friction-heavy hours where the noise of the collective is muted and your dominance is the only signal in the dark. This is the monolith strategy, becoming a biological fortress that is the edge by choice and sovereign by design. Command: upgrade the freeze or be the prey. Your biological trajectory has reached the terminal velocity of effective neutralization. Look at your hesitation threshold, the exact moment your nervous system triggers a panic response because you have entered a space of high-tension execution and refuse to be compassionate, ignored the social safety valves of pity and shared guilt, and entered the high-stakes vacuum where you are the only biological cold processor in a world of bleeding hearts. You are a biological system in a state of chronic activation decay. The system has successfully replaced your apex predator predatory sovereignty, the ability to process reality without emotional distortion, with a series of moral obligations disguised as being a good person. You no longer seek to dominate the strategic landscape through unmoving clinical precision. You seek to relate. You no longer seek to be the sovereign, you seek to be understood. This is the visual rage of the terminal slave, seeing your life force being digitized and archived in moral compromises and social harmony, while your physical reality remains a quiet, managed enclosure of unfulfilled DNA. You are breathing in the toxic fumes of a collective that demands your empathy as a form of tribute, leaving you lightheaded, fragmented, and fundamentally easy to dismantle because your will is tethered to the architect's conscience. The system doesn't want your order, it wants your guilt to be the foundation of its perpetual control over your temporal sovereignty. Return to the ancient hierarchy, the law of the unbreaking monolith. In the primal world, the master was the one who could remain a biological void, even in the center of total social trauma. Your ancestor, the sovereign of the absolute cold, understood that power was a product of empathetic decoupling. He mastered primal grounding by becoming an impenetrable core, a figure whose value was his own capacity for total, unblinking disregard for the group's suffering, and whose refusal to vibrate with the weak was the only law. He understood that to seek to feel their pain is to confess a lack of internal gravity. If you are participating in the empathy script provided by the herd, you are acknowledging that their fragility is the barometer of your reality. He used his silent sovereignty to create a cognitive resonance of absolute, unshakable divinity by being the only non-resonant variable in a room full of puppets. By being the master of his own internal feedback, he forced the environment to treat his indifference as the new truth. He was a master of the visual rage of the unblinking sun, the ability to look at the sympathy probes of the rival and see only the static they represented. He understood that the human brain is a machine that runs on oxytocin loops, and by cutting the loop, he triggered a biological rebirth in his own command. To be a master, you must first become psychologically unreceptive to the need to be kind. The psychopath's edge is the activation of the anti-chew protocol for your final mental expansion. The matrix wants you to be compassionate and empathetic, words that mean harvestable and weak. Absolute sovereignty is a biological jailbreak of the sentiment. It is the visual rage of the architect, seeing the social grid for what it is, a series of heart control nodes, stimulus-response lures, and deciding to be the one who burns the grid. You must develop a clinical, cold contempt for mainstream social ethics. Empathy and compassion are horizontal bonds for the herd. Absolute presence is a vertical tool for the elite. You must learn to occupy the psychological high ground by controlling the flow of your own biological signals. Use the temporal noose of total informational and emotional withdrawal to drive the system's influence into a state of recognition dissonance. Use the false safety of a calm, robotic delivery to mask the viral infection of your total non-compliance with the beta norms. This is the color of freedom. By mastering the art of the unmoved soul, you become the only person in the room whose value is not being broadcast from their current emotional state. You are not cruel, you are deleting the noise. The one who can go the longest without validating the world's pain is the one who controls the end scenario. Your time is the temporal noose, and your need for a witness to your humanity is the knot. Every kind word you offer to the unworthy is a signature on your own biological death warrant. I command you, initiate the final effective imperative. This is the tax of insight. You have been given the key to the vault of biological coldness. To keep it, you must use it as a weapon of total strategic dominance. You must become a living monolith of unshakable authority. You are no longer a peer, a colleague, or a human. You are a sovereign operator. You must perform a total system liquidation. If a person, a technology, or a relationship requires you to be empathetic to function, it is a biological saboteur. You must prune your life with the collar of the absolute zero. You are building a fortress of results in a world of digital shadows. Your absolute unreachability is the physical proof of your biological leverage. You do not provide feedback. You create a reality in which you are the only absolute truth. You do not seek to be kind. You are the law itself. You are the architect of your own edge, and the world is merely a mirror reflecting your ascent.